Okay, here we have a request to speak system used by city councils or for school boards or other types of legislative meetings. We have a keypad here with 3 buttons on it: request to speak, talk, and clear. Now, over here we have a chairperson station, and it shows a display on here, and this display will show who's in line to speak. Okay, so we're going to go back and to the keypad. We're going to press the request button, and we can look over here, and his name shows up in the display. He is requesting to speak. Now, somebody else may also want to request to speak, so I'm going to push this button here, and now we have 2 names in the display. Now, I also want to show you one more thing here. Over here, this is the main unit in the control room. The camera operator and the person running the audio video wants to know who's in line to speak as well, because he wants to set his camera for the first person, and then he wants to put his second camera on the second person. So now the chairperson recognizes the first person, so we're going to push the first button on the top here, and the first person is now allowed to speak. It says talk, and we're going to start the timer at the same time. And now he's got 2 minutes to speak, and he's speaking, and let's say a third person also wants to speak. So I'm going to go over here and push the request button on another station, and now you see a third person showing up in the request to speak list. So the camera operator can also be getting a third camera ready for the next person that may want to speak. And so the first person is going to continue speaking until the timer runs out. So we're going to cut it short here. So he's done speaking, we're going to say. He didn't use up all of his time, so we're going to push this button. He's no longer on the list. The list now has 2 names in it, the second and the third person that wants to speak, and the first person is no longer there. We're going to stop the timer, and we're going to recognize the second person in the list. We're going to push the button. The chairperson says, okay, now the second person can speak. The word talk shows up, and then we'll start the timer for the second person, and it starts counting down. He has 2 minutes to speak, and there's a third person waiting in line to speak. So once the first person is done, then we can move to the second person that's in the list. So meanwhile, somebody else can request to speak. Their name will show up in the list over here, and you'll see a third person in the list. Now we can actually have up to 4 names, so I'm going to do one more button just to show you that. Okay, Gloria also wants to speak, so we have 4 people in the list. Now if a 5th person wants to request to speak, it'll show up in the list, but it'll be below this display, so you won't see it. So the first person speaking, when the first person is done, the chairperson pushes this button, turns off the talk, and he disappears from the list. And now the chairperson can stop the timer, reset the timer, start the timer for the next person, and it shows talk. Okay, so now we have 2 more people in the list right there, and they're going to get their turn to speak. Okay, now one more thing that could happen now, instead of the chairperson aborting the conversation, we can go over to the request to speak station, and the person speaking, if he's done early, he could just hit his clear button and abort the conversation as well. And then the chairperson would stop the timer and wait for the next person, and the chairperson would then recognize the next person in the list, and now the same thing continues on throughout the entire meeting. So this is the operation of the request to speak system. Now other things that might happen is electronic voting. So we're going to show that next.